What I am going to start today is the cooperative banks. It's amazing, these institutions. Now, there are some books coming up, some books are there. When I was a student, I got a couple of books. There are very different kinds of institutions. They are not corporate companies, banks are corporate companies. Cooperative banks are not corporate companies, they are very different, and they come under something called cooperative societies. And you must have heard that cooperative societies are all around us. You must have heard of cooperative housing society. You must have heard cooperative housing society. Then if you go to rural or semi-urban areas of India, you will find cooperative stores selling goods. अर्बन एरिया में ज़्यादा देखेंगे नहीं, रूरल या सेमी अर्बन एरिया में चलेंगे इंडिया में, you will find cooperative stores selling goods, all kinds of goods. Now, let me tell you about the cooperative society. So, I will go very slowly initially, at least. Essentially, the idea of cooperative institution, I think it has come from the East European or Russian USSR, it used to be known. Is an institution founded by a group of individuals, like we 4, 5, 10 of us can get together and form a cooperative society for whatever purpose. It may not be a bank, it may be something else like housing society, like a shop, open a shop, or educational institutions, who knows. And we form it, and we are not called shareholders. This is like a society, so there are members. So, we will be called members of the society. So, it is not no share capital as such, all right, initially. There is a philosophical understanding of a cooperative society, like there is a philosophical base for a constitution, a parliament, a political party, what they meant to do. Cooperative societies, interestingly enough, have a philosophical base. It says that it operates on the principle of cooperation. So, we cooperate each other, we don't compete. We don't compete, we cooperate each other. So, if you cannot do something, I would help you. I cannot do something, you would help me. It's not, if you cannot do something, so I try to bypass you and go ahead in the race. Competition nahi. Achha. Self-help, which implies self-help. Now, in India today, we have central government self-help organization schemes, etc. also. Self-help basically to help yourselves. So, you form a society to help yourself. A housing society, what it means? A group of people get together, form a housing society. Essentially, they would all pool their money together, appoint a contractor and build the house, and say 10 people, 10 flats. And it's called a cooperative housing society, and where they would look after the housing society, the maintenance, etc. All right? So, cooperation, not competition, self-help and mutual help, and it is the same thing. You help yourself, you help each other, and we cooperate. So, there is no profit motive as such. The basic point I am trying to drive is very unlike a competitive society. There is no profit motive here. All right? Okay. Now, in India, if you look at the cooperative society around you, you will find there are cooperative societies in production activities, in processing activities, food processing, other processing activities, marketing, distribution, servicing, banking, all sorts of areas cooperative societies exist. Now, in India, cooperative banking dates back to 1904. The history says the earliest cooperative bank was found. I found this information in Professor Bhole's first edition of the book, thin book, it's in the library. He had a chapter on cooperative banks, it's very interesting, little chapter, but very useful, very informative. So, 1904, the first cooperative bank was founded, and these were created in rural areas with the purpose, which is very understandable. There were no banking system whatsoever those days. Commercial banks never, whoever existed, like the State Bank of India then had the name Imperial Bank of India. It never had a branch there. So, in rural areas, the only source of fund was these very notorious money lenders. And they were, in their grip, and they wanted to find an alternative financing institution, and they found cooperative society. That's how it started in rural India, not in urban areas, where the credit was very inadequate, and private lenders used to lend money, and they still do at a very high interest rate. Now you have so many institutions. You have just done a cooperative society. You heard about rural banks, regional rural banks. You have commercial bank branches. You have NABARD sometimes walking in directly. So I will talk to you about NABARD role here, very important in cooperative banks. So like commercial banks, however, it has some. So it is not a shareholding company in that sense, but they have, modern cooperative banks do have some subscription to share capital, I have heard. But initially the concept was not share capital. It's the members who pool their money. So whatever you have, whatever I have, pulled together, and that remains as a pool of resource, out of which if you need money today, I lend you, then you return, then he gets the money, his turn comes, he borrows. When he returns, then the other person borrows. Just like self-help groups that are developing in India today. All right. Now, but like commercial banks, it has some similarities when it comes to banking. It accepts deposits. Their own money is not sufficient. They ask people to open accounts, supply credit, both short-term and long-term, very interesting, loans, etc. they give. I don't think they have a cash credit system. They have a loan system. So short-term and long-term loans they give. And they also provide remittance facilities. So you want to send money to your brother somewhere else, he is residing, you can send money, remittance facilities. You can remit funds. So it's very much, there are some activities of these cooperative banks which are very similar to commercial bank activities. All right. Now, some of these banks also these days, the big banks, big cooperative banks provide housing loans, which means lakhs of rupees, not small farmers loans, 10,000, 5,000, 20,000, lakhs of rupees, housing loans. They also provide sometimes advances against shares and debentures. Baap re baap, itna sophisticated ho gaya cooperative banks. They give you advance against shares and debentures which will be used as some sort of a collateral. All right. So they offer various kinds of service of commercial banks, but it is not as wide as commercial banks. Commercial banks have diversified immensely in the past 20, 30 years. Commercial banks have mutual fund companies, commercial banks have venture capital firms, commercial banks have all sorts of investment activities in government and non-government bonds, etc. Commercial banks go into discounting of commercial bills, they go into the CP market and finance, they go have CDs, there are various kinds of fixed deposits. So commercial bank activities are enormous. Some of the commercial banks have also opened subsidiaries who are underwriters. ICICI ko dekhiye na. ICICI was an insurance, industrial development finance ke liye IDBI ke माफिक created हुआ था in the private sector. IDBI was a government created institution. ICICI was primarily a World Bank created institution. Basic difference. Look what ICICI has today. It has ICICI Prudential, insurance business mein. ICICI Bank, commercial bank business mein. They have ICICI Capital or something. They are into underwriting of shares. They have many. They have diversified. Now commercial banks, cooperative banks are not that big, not diversified at all. They go into the basic banking activities, accept deposits, provide remittance facilities, provide loans to the members primarily, that's what they do, etc. All right. So cooperative banks don't have mutual funds, venture capital firms, companies, they don't participate in the repo market, they don't have a call market to help each other. All right? They don't have any of these other things that you have learned so far. I will give you my notes, whatever I have. Okay. Now, before I go into the detailed understanding of how cooperative banks function in India, I have to show you a tree, cooperative bank tree. It's a classification of various kinds of cooperative banks that exist. Niketan, would you please pass this one? I've forgotten. Now, I will have to tell you about the cooperative bank tree. Now, here is the tree. I will bring my laptop every day to show this to you. This is the structure of cooperative. At the top, you have RBI, NABARD and state governments. These are the controlling, funding, regulatory authorities. Cooperative banks do not just have RBI controlling them. Cooperative banks are controlled by NABARD and largely by state governments. So, every state government has a cooperative department, and that cooperative department issues the license to form a cooperative society, which is called the registration. If you form a society, it has to be registered. You will have a registration number. Now, where do you get that? You don't go to Bombay Stock Market, or you don't go to company board. You go to the cooperative department of the state government. Every state has that. In fact, there is always a minister in charge of cooperative societies also. He has maybe other portfolios, but cooperative activities, society activities is one of the responsibilities. And this department issues the license or provides the registration if you form. Tomorrow you may be requiring to do get a cooperative society formed. Now, look at the cooperative banks here. There are two kinds: rural banks, urban banks. Urban banks, they have simple one type of banks. They are called urban cooperative banks, UCBs. Rural bank mein jidhar mein cooperative movement started in India, banks is very complex. In rural, you have short-term credit, a particular type of cooperative organizations. You have long-term credit, another kind of cooperative banks, they are known, technically speaking. In the short-term credit, the first branch, you have the state cooperative banks. Every state has a state cooperative bank. Under the state, you have the districts. So, you have the central cooperative banks operating at the district level. Okay? Okay? So, every state has a state cooperative bank, like a mother organization. Under the state cooperative banks, you have the central cooperative banks at the district level. Within the district, you have the villages, panchayats, etc. All right? Blocks, wards, villages, etc. Wards are in urban areas, blocks and villages. And then at the village level, what you have after the district, you have what you call PSE, Primary Agricultural Credit Society, PSES. You have the PSES, Primary Agricultural Credit Societies. These are the institutions who are the real cooperative banks, because they are in touch with the borrower. So, now what happens at the district level banks like central cooperative banks, and what happens at the state level banks? For each state there is at least one. Sometimes I have heard some state level cooperative banks also go beyond the state's jurisdiction. Say the state level cooperative bank in West Bengal may have some area under its operation in Bihar. Because also you have to understand that the states got created and rearranged in the last 50-60 years continuously, or even before that. So, their operations are not that watertight within a state, but every state has a state cooperative bank. And under the state, districts should have one central cooperative bank. Then under the central cooperative banks, you have the actual cooperative banks who do the business, who lend the loan, all right, give you the money, the farmers, etc. They are called primary agricultural credit societies. Now, if you go into the long-term credit, you have again state land development banks, they are called SLDBs, state land development banks. In long-term credit, you have state land development banks in long-term credit, SLDBs. Then at the district level and the village level, what you have? Primary land development banks at the village level, and at the village level also you have branches of state land development banks and primary land development banks. Now, one thing you notice here, there is no district level distinction here. Straight from the state level land development banks, you go directly to the village level, where you have primary land development banks and branches of state land development banks. Whereas, in the first branch there, you see State level, you have state cooperative banks, district level, you have central cooperative banks, village level, you have primary agricultural credit societies. No branch word is mentioned. So, these banks, what are known as unit bank types, rural credit, they are unit bank types. Unit means what? One bank, one society, somebody formed it. It does not have a branch. But in case of land development banks, it is like our commercial banks. State Bank has a branch in Kanpur, State Bank has a branch in Unnao, State Bank has a couple of branches within other parts of Kanpur city, State Bank has branches all over India. Very different. They are branch banking type. They are called branch banking type. The land development long-term credit banks. Whereas, in case of rural credit, it's very much a unit banking type. Conceptually speaking, they are called unit banks. That means one cooperative society is one bank formed by a group of individuals who do not necessarily control the other one. There is another one. Next village has another cooperative society, another bank. Completely different set of people are members. But in case of long-term credit, there are branches and of both primary land development banks as well as state land development banks. Remember that. They are not unit bank type. All right. This is a very important distinction. Okay? Now, let me tell you, this is hardly what I have said anything except just giving a bird's eye view of how the cooperative banks in India are conceptually classified. Now, I come to the operational part. It's very interesting how they operate. The distinctive features of the cooperative banks that I have just shown you are as follows. They are in the rural economy, so serving agriculture mostly, and some of them do also serve agro-based industries today. Fruit processing is becoming a very important, then horticulture, there are some industries developing a lot. Horticulture means that they are trying to develop so much that they are trying to export flowers also. Unbelievable. Just as food processing. Food processing includes all kinds of food, but they are also into horticulture and various other things. Okay. Now, if you look into the entire structure of cooperative banks in India today, they are of the mixed type. Some are unit banking type, some are branch banking type. They are a mixed type. Commercial banks, however, are all one type. They are called branch banking, okay, type, but they are not. But I have doubted something about the regional rural bank, whether they have branches. They may or may not. I am not very clear. Now, there was an important email that has come out, CRR money, is there any interest that is given by RBI? Who sent it to me? That is a very interesting point. They have changed it. So, what they are doing, RBI, this is a digression I am having here. What RBI is doing, RBI is saying, if you keep my CRR money, which you have to keep by law, but you won't get any interest, means basically asking them to perform even better. I mean, don't sleep tight, CRR रुपया है तो क्या है उधर उतना पड़ा हुआ है, interest तो कुछ मिलेगा 5% 6%, क्योंकि वो deposit money है, उसके ऊपर हमको interest देना पड़ेगा to depositors, you and me. But they have changed that, it seems to be. So, there is no interest on CRR, basically forcing banks to perform even better, because whatever money remains with you, now try to make money on that, so that you can earn money for yourself, you can pay the depositors interests on whatever, and also manage your NPAs. It's essentially a performance enhancing measure they have taken. RBI would by law collect CRR cash, but not paying any interest on it, which they used to. And what his email said, which I forwarded to all of you, not Gurvinder, other people, the email said that I haven't read, I couldn't open the link. Basically, what he is saying, there is no interest paid these days on CRR by RBI. Okay. Anyway, now I am coming to some of these things here. So, there is a business, these semi-urban, urban and metropolitan cities also have urban banks, cooperative banks, etc. All right. So, they are mixed banking type. As I told you, the state credit bank, state cooperative bank, central cooperative bank and primary agricultural credit societies are mostly of the unit banking type, whereas the land development banks, in case of long-term credit, either the primary land development banks or the state land development banks, they are of the branch bank type. Okay. Cooperative banks do not create credit, very important point. Commercial banks do, very important point. So, they cannot collect this amount of money like 100 crores or say 100,000 or 1 lakh and create credit by giving out loans or promising loans worth 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs. They cannot do that. They do not create credit, very important, cooperative banks. Is another difference between commercial banks and cooperative banks. Next. So, now imagine a group of poor farmers formed a cooperative society. Here comes the catch. You cannot create credit and make a lot of money. You may make a mistake, NPAs may be there, but at least there is a possibility of making a lot of money, because out of 1 lakh I create loans of 10 crores or 10 lakhs. So, I earn interest on that. Maybe a couple of loans have failed, but most of them will bring home some interest over a period of time. So, how would cooperative societies run? First of all, cooperative societies are not share capital. You cannot be registered in the Bombay stock market or whatever and raise primary shares, primary capital. They are all your and my money put together. How much money will it be if there are poor people in the rural areas of India forming them? Here comes the catch. So, their corpus, the capital on the basis of which they would operate, would be very small. The need of any one individual may be equal to the total money we collected. So, if one person borrows that money today for 2 years, 3 years or whatever, nobody will have any help from that corpus for 2 years, 3 years, till he returns. And the danger is, if he fails to return, हो गया cooperative society, बंद करो, ताला लगाओ, तो रुपया है नहीं. So, here comes the most important issue. How do cooperative banks therefore function? How do they function? So, if you go through the literature, what you find, I haven't looked up much data. Cooperative banks receive financial and other help also. Other help can be like advisory help, help regarding training, how you would run your bank. All right, a bunch of illiterate people don't know how to run the bank. They have to be taught and trained, made literate perhaps to some extent. But I will tell you what they do if they run well. They often hire managers like commercial banks to run there, but they are paid people. They are not owners of the bank. They are paid people like managers. They are hired. Like ownership companies hire managers, you know that. Like say 2 persons have created a partnership company, they can hire people who are not the owners, but paid employee of the company. So, cooperative banks receive financial and other help from, here comes RBI, NABARD, central government, state governments and other cooperative banks, very important. Some cooperative banks are doing very well. There comes the most interesting issue. Often cooperative banks help other cooperative banks, but that won't be too much. Some. The bulk of the help comes in India from RBI, NABARD of course, state governments and sometimes central government allocates some funds in a budget. Now, how does the money reach? This is very interesting. I think the entire route for the money to reach, maybe NABARD also the same thing, they do not directly give to the village primary agricultural credit societies rupiah. Or even at the district level, they do not go and contact central cooperative banks in case of rural credit and give the money, here loan. No. They have a very formal bureaucratic structure. Most probably what I have understood is that the money is not given to them, but they are given to the state governments, who in turn allocate to the state cooperative banks or state land development banks, who in turn go and give the money to the central cooperative banks. Then from the district level, the central cooperative banks disburse the money among the village level banks, which are called primary agricultural credit societies, or in case of long term credit, which you just saw, in case of long term credit, what they do is they go to either to the central land development banks or land development banks or the branches of primary land development banks or branches of state land development banks. Do you see what I am saying? money is not given to the particularly the village level banks directly who disburse loans to the members. Money comes like grandfather के पास पहले रुपया गया, grandfather बांटे है उनका among children, then they give it to their children and then they use it. So the grandchildren do not receive the money directly. Very bureaucratic, all right? And of course, NABARD does a lot here. So what happens compared to commercial banks, the borrowing part from RBI in relation to their deposits, which every member has contributed, the contributory fund, the contribution, and the deposits that they have from the bank customers, the borrowed money, unlike commercial banks, which you have seen data, or you haven't seen, you will see the data, the borrowed money of cooperative banks is much bigger than what their money is in terms of deposits. Whereas in case of commercial banks, the deposits are the bulk out of which investments take place, credits are created, loans are given, etc. And so they have some borrowing, which is a fraction of the total deposits that they collect. In case of cooperative banks, it's the ulta. The deposits are very small, not sufficient at all for your and my need from that society that we have formed. So we ask external agencies to give us help. And various routes, various external agencies give us help, but via one route. Most probably either through the state level cooperative banks directly down, or first state government, then from state government to the state cooperative banks, both in rural credit, short term and long term credit, and in case of urban cooperative banks. Then they go to the district level, from the district level it goes to the village level. Therefore, if you accepted this point, therefore, RBI when it comes, or whoever controls them, the state government, the rules and regulations are slightly different, regulatory measures are slightly different compared to commercial banks. Commercial banks, they have CRR, SLR. In case of cooperative banks, they have deposits, so there will be some CRR, SLR. There will be some CRR, SLR, but very low number, like CRR is 3%, because both kareeb hai cooperative banks. CRR is 3%, ठीक है? But SLR may be very high, because that is just not cash. That is forcing cooperative banks to invest in securities, etc., and build up an asset, accumulation of assets. If I force you to invest in valuables, so you go buy gold, you go buy shares, certificates to create an asset, that is SLR essentially, not keeping just cash. Okay, you are forced to invest. So SLR is high, but CRR is very low, like 3% or something. But one interesting thing they have in addition to commercial banks is that they have to maintain a desired ratio between their own funds, which are the members' funds and the deposits, whatever they have collected from customers who open their accounts there, and the total borrowings. They have to maintain a ratio. Like the total borrowings cannot be more than 3 times. Total borrowings of a cooperative bank cannot be more than 3 times your own funds, your own contributions, etc., perhaps deposits also. Or perhaps deposits are exempted, deposits are looked upon as some sort of a borrowed money, somebody else's. So the members' money, on the basis of which the cooperative society was founded, and the borrowed money will have a critical ratio maintained, not more than 3 times that, or not more than 4 times that. So they have an extra regulatory restriction on them. This is a very important thing to understand. Next, since your evaluator is not yet here, I can keep on talking. This is what I have already told you. Let me repeat. Cooperative banks are under the direct control of the state governments. Cooperative banks are under the direct control of the state governments, all right, instead of the RBI. I told you, cooperative society, if you have to found a cooperative society, you have to get a license or get registered. The registration is done by the state cooperative department. But in case of commercial banks, where do you get the license? In case of commercial banks, where do you get the license? If you want to found a, if you want to open a commercial bank tomorrow, where would you get the license? Whom would you approach? RBI. So now you can see who is the direct controller of these banks, cooperative banks, the state government, because they issue the licenses or does the registration. So cooperative banks are under the direct control of the state governments instead of RBI. Under Cooperative Societies Act, there is an act, Cooperative Societies Act. State governments audit, supervise, and periodically inspect these banks, just what RBI does with respect to commercial banks, just what RBI does with respect to commercial banks. State cooperative banks audit their accounts, supervise them, and periodically inspect them. In addition, district level banks are supervised and controlled by the state level banks, and district level banks in turn control and supervise the village level banks. Fascinating stuff. Do you see how complex it is? State governments does the work of an RBI here. In addition, who is my, like grandfather audits and supervises my father's activities. My father audits and supervises and periodically visits my home to see what I am doing. In addition, the state government personnel also comes into our houses, all of our houses, and audits and supervise and regulate them. It's very, very different than commercial banks, all right? It's a very bureaucratic structure, upper level, lower level business. Do you understand what I'm saying? Babu culture is very much here, kind of a thing. Okay,